Yeah, and then so now we we were successful instead, because now the implementation is simply returning null. Of course, that is not good. Now the next step is make a test that proves that this is not good, that shows that this is broken. Yeah. So what should I do? In this case, this is about student X. Yeah. And student X should then, of course, be equal to the student that I've put into the serialized file, in that file. So the student that are marshaled, and that is student 0 over there. Yeah. And this student is a static final field, so I can fetch that as well. So what I can do, equals wrong student or none, comma, remove the typo, students, and then number 0, one at that location, because I've used that one in my generating part. It is students position 0. I've chosen that. I give it the name K because it's whatever, and I wrote that to that file. File is whatever students.seg. That one student has gone in, and now I must see if that student is the same as the X that I got. Up. So this is the deserialization. So this should produce a student X, and it should be equals. It should not be the same. Why not the same? What does sameness mean in Java? There's a difference between same and equals. So in English language, it is a synonym, but in Java, in the programming world, we want to be distinct. What is say? What? Yes.
Equals is what you expect and what is the reality.
Yeah, but that's about the test. What? Well. Wait. I can.
Identity as well somehow.
Yeah. That's true. I can express another test, which looks very similar. Ja, helemaal. Ik kon er weer gallies van. So, which of those tests is the correct one? What is the difference between assert same and assert equals?
I think equals compared, in this case, address of the memory where the object is, and same proves the content of the object.
It's very good, with one small snap. It's the opposite. Equals sees typically tests if all the fields are the same, or rather that the content of the object is equal. And same is you're pointing at the same thing. So same does reference comparisons, and it says this reference is the same as this reference, so we're pointing to the same object. Yeah? And equals is this field, they're all the same, okay, it's equal. If any of these things are unequal, or the type is different, or one is an object and the other one is a null reference, then it's unequal. So equals should say false.
With the copy it will say equals.
If it copies, will say equals. And if you point with two names to x and y pointing to the same object, then same will be true. Yeah? Meaning that sometimes you want to test, is it the same thing I want to get back, or did they sneakily make another one and give me that version? If I want to have the same object back, I should test for sameness. And if I want an equal object, so the same color car, same model, same brand, same type number, or registration, nummer shield, kentekenplaat, license plate, yes, then it would be equal. Not the same, but equal. two cars, identical. That's what they do in films. You crash one, and then they can take a next scene with a fresh new car. Sometimes that is effective. So, what is the correct test in this case? Same or equal? Good. Equal is the correct test because I want to make a new object, and I can't even test for sameness because it should land at the same location, and I should have to reassign x and let them point these references to the same thing. So equals is the only possibility in this case. Is that completely true? Because the serialization creates a new object. That is what it should do, and it will be distinct. So an unsame, not same. Distinct is not same object. Yeah. So this is really wrong. I simply take it out. No, I'll leave it out. This is very wrong. Yeah. I'll leave it out in as comment because then you can see it. So this is the test. Yeah. Let's see what it does. Up, and in my test results, hey, let's see what it does here. This is a bit strange because yeah, okay. I ran the wrong thing. I ran the main program, and it is useless in testing here. And this test says, okay, I have a perfect test because my test says what was it? It's a null that you're returning, and I expected student with this hash code, with exactly this student, this object. And to say that it is wrong student, it simply says student with add and then some number, which is the hash code. Now, to make this really work, no, let's make the next step. Let's simply marshal and then continue this work. So what should I do? Well, it looks a bit like this one, of course, because what you need to do is you need to make an object input stream and then make it feed it with a file, and then that file has a name, and that name comes from the file name as an argument, and then wrap them appropriately. That is, make the one thing first and feed it to the other. Very much the same as over here. Yes. So the first thing you need to do. So let's simply be very lazy and copy this stuff, but from output make inputs. This is of course not very nice programming, Finn, and make this into input as well, and then output input stream. Maybe I need an input statement, and then what is wrong here? It says, okay, you need to throw some exceptions because it can go wrong. And what else? It probably also has another exception to throw. Yes, that's also the same thing also over here. So it's almost okay. Small problem is that an object output stream won't like FOSS, that doesn't exist. So let's try it with Finn. No, it doesn't like it either because that's the wrong parameter type. Now, Java is very strict with that. That is the advantage of a language like Java. It wants a correct type here. So what does it want? Well, of course, because I define the objects that I want to use, the streams that I want, I have the wrong kind, I have the wrong direction. So give me a hint. Sorry? Yeah. So object input stream. So this is in, and this is in, and I probably get another import thingy, and then you're done. And then of course I have now an OOR, let's call it OIN, object in, And then of course I have to change this here as well. And then of course I should not write the object, but instead read the object. Yes. And then return. What's this? Unspecified class not found exception. Yes, very good. So you get an extra exception to throw. And then you have this line over here, assign a value, read object, and what you can do is return that over here. Yeah? Now, I don't want to return objects, but instead I want to return what? What is the specification of this method? Return type is T. Yeah? So what I should do is maybe specify inside my method, that is typically what I do, and probably Stephen as well. So in the beginning of the method I specify a T. I call it result, because that's the simplest name that you can come up with. Then assign the thing that you read like this, and then return the result. What of course you could also do is simply inside the try block return the result, and still the file will get closed and all these things. But this is okay, I think, I hope, and this we have the test to prove it. Yeah. So let's see what happens now. Okay, now it says causes an error, there is no such file or directory. Test with beer. That's okay, because I'm not testing with beer yet, because I didn't make beer instances yet. So and the file name is probably wrong. So first I choose to not execute this method, but instead ignore this test. And you can do that by simply adding a tag there. Ignore, yeah. So that this thing will not be executed in my tests. Yes, and then if I rerun my tests and look at my, rerun my tests, you see that I have one test less, the other one is grayed out. And now you see I have uncompatible source code, uncompilable source code. Ho, 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 ho. You can have a little learning experience, because I have errors. And errors are precious, because errors give you an opportunity to learn what's wrong. But it says I can't compile the stuff because it's kaput, broken. Yeah? Een leuk filmpje gekeken. Wacht niet? Wat zijn ze dan aan het doen? We zijn aan het zoeken naar het boek. Oh. Oh yes, very good. Dan moeten we nog van zeggen. Ja. En moeten we nog fatsoenlijk krijgen. Nee? Ja, op onze website. Bij die eigenaar. Ja, natuurlijk. Let's do that as well, because mag even de aandacht. Iedereen wakker? Wake up please. This is the book that you should acquire, or make sure that you can study it. We have an idea what you should study, but we will make a thorough investigation that we can tell you next week Friday what exact chapters and sections you need to study for a theoretical exam. It's only from this book, and all the things that you need to study are in the book. We won't teach you using sheets. You read, you study. There are exercises in the book. You exercise. Yeah, because if I talk, you fall asleep. Yeah. Next week, we'll tell you exactly what section, paragraphs, and so on. Okay, go back to this. What is so the compiler says this is rubbish. Why won't it do it? Why do you guess that this doesn't work and that one doesn't work? Because it's the same thing, of course. Yeah, it has issues.
We have another exception that we add
in the
Exactly. So this exception, this throws clause,
expecting all the other.
yeah, is incomplete. So what we need to do is add a throws clause. Okay, that's that, and maybe another one. Yes, yes, and here the same.
That one's ignored.
No, what is ignored?
Third one.
A third one. Yes, so we had no exceptions over here, and now we have 3 exceptions over there. And of course you could say it's an exception, I don't care about exception, but in this case these are all the kind of exceptions that you can get when you deserialize, because all kind of things can go wrong, like you can't do the I/O, then the file doesn't exist that you wanted to read, because you're reading a file, and file not found is, well, a cause of not being able to read a file. And the third one is, if we look into the file, then you can see that, where is the beast? The objects.ser, that this thingy over there, no, this thingy over there contains object information, that is class information, and it can't find the file that is required. Yeah, because the file, it can't find the type that is required. It could be that you try to deserialize an object stream for which you don't have the class file available. Someone passed you wine instead of beer, and then the JVM says, hey, I don't know what wine is. Yeah. So that is the reason for this third L. Now, how can I compile? Well, we already did that. Rerun the tests, and let's see what happens. And now it says wrong student. Can you see this? Can I do this? No. I can't zoom in that easily, but I can shift this up a bit. Oh, that's what I wanted, but anyway, you can see here that it has a student that was expected, that is this K student, and this is the other student that guy got out of the. So there are students objects, and if I do string on the object, it says I'm a student, and my high score is like this. And I compare them using equals, and the outcome is they are not equal. Why is that? Now, the official answer to the question is look into the class objects and look at the implementation and the documentation of equals. And there you will see that equals is based on reference equality. So the default implementation of equals is objects are equal if they are the same. So if I look at taste, another way to look at taste, and I find that the references are the same, I say taste is equal. Yeah. And of course, this kind of equals is not the one that we want. We want equal as in compare the fields that are relevant. Yeah? Well, comparing the fields that are relevant. So we need this.
Can we override that?
Yes, and that is exactly what is intended. If you want to do a proper equality test on objects, for instance, if you want to find objects in your hash map and in your collection, then the equals method is used. And of course, if the same object is in there twice, then you'll find that object, and that's not just fine. So the default interpretation is useful in many cases, but not in all. In this case, we must make sure that we do a proper equal test for objects. In this case, for student. Now there are two ways to go about that. And in this case, you can simply make this the equals method, and let it make by NetBeans. And because we've chosen to make all the fields final, what NetBeans will generate, or what IntelliJ will generate for you, is just fine. Hey, what's this? Come on, stop. Yes, okay. So what I can do is, no, not X, Alt, insert, equals and hash code. You will see that equals and hash code should always, no, not always, but very often go in pairs. What you put into hash code should also be put into equals, for the reason that if two objects are equal, the hash code should also be the same. And let's see what NetBeans thinks. Well, it suggests to include some fields. In this case, you could select all. That is quite proper. But in a typical object that comes out of a database, which might happen later on, you typically only use the ID field. And for students or for people, that is quite appropriate, because even if you change your name, your social security number or your student number should be the same, because you're the same person. So in a typical business case, I would just use ID in both cases. But it is allowed to select them all. Now let's do that. And in case all the fields are final, selecting all is fine. So let's see what NetBeans does for you. Look, what a lot of code that you get for free. And this is okay. Unless, of course, in the exam say only include this field into the equals and hash code map. Yeah? Then the generated code is not, but you must simply set your checkbox properly and that stuff. Now let's see, simply after doing this, let's go back to the test results and rerun our test. Or why doesn't it do anything? Because it says, well, one test is skipped, but the other two pass. So my test on Marshall now passes. So what do you do next now? If you're working in project and you've got the assignment, you do the student, and you do truck driver, you do trailer, you do truck, you do whatever. What do you do now? I've completed the first version of my Marshall and unmarshal methods. What do I do?
Add the file.
Sorry?
Add the file.
Add a file, and then? What do you mean by add a file?
Run it.
Ah, run it. What would you do? If you're working in a project team and working on making software, and you got a working version which passes all tests and the tests are appropriate, that is, the functional requirements are fulfilled. What do you do? How do it? How do I do that? Yes, SVN, CMN, test, first, version, run, 6, oh, typo, whatever. Okay, so I have a running version, and this works. And what should I do to make it work for beers as well? To make this test really run successfully? A bit of copy pasting is allowed. Let's simply prefix this name with a letter, B file name, and then do a marshaller, pass the marshaller, simply do what this do marshal does, but then do it with beers. Yeah, we can do that. I won't do it because it's not the point that I wanted to make. More important is, so leave this test as ignore. You may do that as an exercise. More important is, now I'm not completely satisfied with with that version, because, well, if you can only write one field to a file, then you need now multiple files, and it's not very useful. So I want to improve. I want to hi, you project groups. Yes, you have written one truck driver. You have written Bob to the file Bob.z, but there are more drivers in the company. Otherwise, you would have 5 people that do nothing useful, only making orders and such, and the transportation doesn't take place. So you need multiple drivers in the company. No. Yeah.
So now it creates one file for every driver? For every...
No, it only can write one file, one object to the file. And this is the current implementation, yes? Yeah. If I look at the marshaller, you can only write one file, one object to a file, that object, okay? And it can read one object back from the file. It returns one object. I want to improve this API. And I want to keep the tests as good as possible. I only have to introduce a few things. So what would I like to do? Start at the writing part, because that is the first thing you need to do to make tests work. So what do I do? It's allowed to change the methods that are available. You may change the signature of both methods. Yeah, right.
Array of things?
Yeah, for instance, array of things. I could say an array of t's. So t brackets k. That's a possibility. Yeah. Yes.
T point car.
Yes.
For example.
Yes. Yes. That's what I would choose, because it has the advantage that it includes both what you want, but also the possibility to say I want to serialize k and d, k, comma d. Yeah? So it allows me to do two things. Because the t dot 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 is the same as the definition of an array, but it is allowed to pass in just one element, and it will be turned into an array with one element. And if there are no elements at that place, then it will be an empty array. So it will always be an array at the receiving end. Yes, let's have a look how we do that. So I change the method, and now what should happen? Well, not really that much. So that's the only change I made. Let's run the tests again. Where is my test thingy? Test result. I want this on the. Oh, come back. Come on. Window. Reset Windows. Hoppata. And I don't want this one because it's annoying. Let's rerun the tests. So file test. No. On this one, run the tests on that file. Hey. No. Run this test. Sorry. And you see that we have a problem here. So just changing a little bit and rerunning the test shows you what the problem is. And that is a wonderful thing in testing. Because now you change something and you run it and it's broken. And the test says immediately, this is wrong. Read it. And yeah, it's a bit complex, but if you try to read it, try to make sense of it, and maybe I should make this box a bit wider, because then you can read it completely. Oh. Yeah? What does it say? Can you read it on the back end? Yes, I will spell it out. Test on Marshall caused an error. And it says bracket L and l.fontis.cbvalue.iostream.student, that is the long name, the fully qualified name of the student class type, cannot be cast to l.fontis.cbvalue.iostream.student. Now what is the difference between those two things?
The L from
Yeah, and another character as well. It says a brace, a bracket. That's a bracket. A rechte haak. Square bracket. And then an L. An L means reference or link, something like that. So it says it's an array of references to objects of type NL-Fontes. So it says I have an array at the one end and a student at the other end. I can't make them match because an array of students is different than a student. So what do I need to do?
change student to also array.
Yeah. So the problem probably lies in the fact that in the marshaller I only added these three dots, but I didn't change the implementation. Yeah, and what test is wrong, by the way? That's the unmarshalled test. And the unmarshalled test now sees inside the serialized format, instead of one student, an array of students with one student in it. Different things. Yeah? So what do I need to do? Make sure that I write an array of students. Yeah? So, now you can question, do I... No. Oh, sorry. Now, I have a small problem.
Guess it's
Yeah.
written, right?
What is written at the moment is K, and it's an array of students.
Yeah.
But what I want in my file is not an array of students, but I want student, 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 which is not an array of student, but just the objects. So what I should do, instead of just writing the array of students which is passed in, this is the same as I've tried to tell you as this one. That is what was suggested on the desk side. So what I should do, add a dot, instead write one student after the other, or one T after the other, in this case one K after the other. How do you do that? A for loop. What kind of for loop? Do you have any preference?
Yes.
A for each loop, and that's the way you do that. And then move this method up. Yeah, and then maybe a formatting bit. Yes, so that's not that hard. And then rerun the tests. Probably still will not work, because it will say on the unmarshalling end, still a problem. And the unmarshalling end, because here you do a cast of the content of that object file, and now it may completely break. A cast on this end, because it now says it's still the same.
I guess it's the first one was correct. We do not need a for loop.
Yeah.
But because it writes the array of these objects, but now we cannot read. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. It's true. It's completely true. But what I initially wanted is writing a number of objects. Let's first of all, of course, because these tests are run in a wrong, maybe in a wrong order. Delete this one, yes. And then rerun my tests. Yeah, and I have this test failed. This casting doesn't work. So there are two approaches to this problem. One is simply write the array as is. So do it like this. That is what you are saying. Yes? Slash slash. Take this one away as well. And then of course at this end, I need to change as well, because this one does now the wrong thing. It casts the result of read object to a T. And it shouldn't cast it to a T, but instead to something else. An array of T. And that also implies that I must modify my signature of the unmarshal method. Otherwise the receiving end will receive an array of T where it expects one T, one student. Yes? So what I must do is, first of all, return type is changed, then this one changed, and then of course the cast as well. And let's see if this one passes my tests. Yeah? Now I have this problem, and it has some characters omitted, and those are of course the most important characters, because it now says, oh wait, it says incompilable source. No, I'm wrong here. Now it says over here, this won't work. Why not? Compiler says, what must I do here? No. This is the unmarshal. Yeah, sorry? Yeah, good so. Perfect. Instead of one student, I'll get out a student array, even if it only contains one student. So now the compiler should be pleased. But of course, I use this stuff twice. Let's throw this one out, because it's annoying. And well, whatever. Let's throw it out. And now, at least here we have now a student array. That is what we receive from this thingy. And of course, if we want to verify that the same student that was marshaled is also the same one that is unmarshaled, we should visit the array element at position 0 and compare to the students at a position 0. Yes. So this should now be our test. Let's see if this is any good. And this test passes. So we've written an array of these, and we read back an array of these. That must be compatible. What you write must be read. The other approach is a bit harder, and actually I like this better. Now we've investigated this version. I have a version which simply reads from the file as long as there are something left. So it reads as many students as in the file, without specifying upfront how many students that this file contains. And it's a different thing, and meaning that from a network connection, before you know how many students, are simply feeding you with students, and that would be a different API. But now for one, I will settle with this version, and I'll add the other version as well, so that you can see how it will work when you simply have a stream and you read as many objects of that type until the stream is exhausted or consumed. Yeah, but that's it for today. I'll stop my filming.